is Rod Pike, who fortunately isn't ringing for anybody this year, so has given us his services as judge, which we're very grateful. And also there is George Pike and Roger Baldwin, both of whom have been involved in past years. So I think all I can do is say, Rod, over to you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a very enjoyable day, and first I'd like to thank everyone who has given us this opportunity to judge the 12-bell competition. We regard it certainly as a great honour. We recognise it puts us very much into the firing line, because I know how keenly the decisions are debated afterwards, but it's certainly an opportunity that we've both welcomed and enjoyed. Part of that enjoyment, I have to say, does come from the fact that, at least from our point of view, everything was so well arranged and organised for us. I'd particularly like to thank Patrick Brooke, who made all the local arrangements, and our stewards David Agg and Claire Barlow, who saw to our every need, or just about every need. We certainly regarded it very important that first and foremost we could hear the bells clearly, and yet at the same time be out of sight of all those competing. And I can really assure you, and I don't know if any of you did go up and take the opportunity earlier in the morning just to see where we were judging, but those conditions were both met extremely effectively, and I'm happy to say that we take full responsibility for any of the marks that follow, and we shall not blame anyone else as a consequence. We did have a ring on the bells to start with. None of us were too familiar with the bells, and so we felt that would be useful, and I think we were certainly glad that we had done so, because it helps in the interpretation of the ringing. Our impression was that certainly some good ringing could be achieved on the bells. There might well be a tendency to rush some of the ringing, which indeed perhaps was the case in some of the ringing. And we also recognised that some of the bells were more difficult to handle than others, or to strike, particularly the back bells. And again, this seemed to come out in the results. I have to say that we couldn't identify any of the bands. One is tempted to do so, and perhaps we did speculate, but I don't think we had any assurance that we'd done that with any precision. So we do accept the potential embarrassment of suggesting that St Paul's ring on toy bells, or perhaps a more welcome embarrassment of confusing John MacDonald and Andrew Wilby, who both rang the 11th. I did the easy part of the judging, taking my prerogative. I just stood back, or laid back, and let my two fellow judges, George and Roger Baldwin, get on with the job of the intensive marking. And I'm very happy to say that they did this extremely well. There was hardly a disagreement between them in the placing, and I didn't have to intervene, and all I had to do was add the clever remark from time to time. At least that's what I tried to do. So I've had a very easy afternoon, and I'd certainly like to pay tribute both to George and Roger in the job that they've done. George is going to do the difficult or interesting part of giving the analysis now. I think I've got too many personal irons in the fire to wish to undertake that myself, so George has kindly volunteered to step into that hot seat, and Roger will tell you at the end a little bit about how we scored, and then give you the actual results. George.
Ladies and gentlemen, could I add my thanks to those that Rod has made and say what a tremendous privilege it's been. We've had a terrific day, we've thoroughly enjoyed it, and what a joy, sir, to be in this lovely church, and thank you for that opportunity. David House was just about right. He said to me that it's about 2 weeks before when you start to get the poison letters, the threats, and the slight hint that if Taunton bells are ever opened up for appeals, well then your vote isn't necessarily certain. I then had a phone call from some guy in York. He said that we ought to take a wider view on judging and what good striking is and the bells that we use, and I therefore invested in these. And finally, we did deliberate quite a bit actually before coming to Cambridge. We thought it would be useful, the short draft, for those that have problems with rope flap on 11-12 at bow. We thought it might be better to come to Cambridge and give them all a better chance. Just an additional point about the bells. As Rod said, we had a ring on. We were grateful for that. We did sense one or two little difficulties, although they are a joy to ring under, one must say, particularly for an old peal. They sound very, very pleasing in the tower. Lovely to ring under. But we found that one or two of the middle bells are a bit false. 6, for instance, a bit slow at hand. 10, 11 could be a little bit sluggish, perhaps. 10 are a bit false. And we took that sort of thing into account. Team 1. Well, that was a pretty good touch to start. Quite good effect, 332 peel speed, and we thought actually that the speed of this piece of ring was the good feature particularly of it, and it went into the first course quite confidently. Sadly, there were severe hesitations just after the single at 13, and that seemed to carry on for the volts of 15 and 16 and beyond, which was a bit disappointing. They didn't really quite recover from that, and sadly that seemed to affect the rest of the touch. The result was that the big bells started to string them out a bit, and I'm afraid the team did pick up a few faults really as a result of that. But bearing in mind that was the first touch, always a bit nerve-wracking, we quite enjoyed it. Team 2, a good piece of ringing. Nice shape to it, we felt. 328 peel speed, and the tenor was rung well. And indeed the big bells, which some bands, it did become apparent, they were tending to wrestle with 9, 10, 11. But a good piece of ringing this, and contributed to the good overall effect mark that we gave this particular touch. And then we went on to Team 3, and the effect was apparent here and seemed to be sustained throughout, that it was a bit breathless for the band. The big bells were always struggling, it seemed to us, and therefore the ringing wasn't quite under control. I think one of the cardinal sins that you can commit in a competition like this is letting the bells run away with you. It was as if they were being driven along by a whip. Now I realise there may be people who like being... The peel speed was 321, and then one of the middle bells stayed in the slow rather too long, it seemed to us. And again, that's, I suppose, the second cardinal sin of a high competition like this, that if mistakes are made, it does make it difficult to recover. And our advice here, it's rather arrogant in a way to give advice, but our comment perhaps for the team, we hope it's helpful, is that if they drop down a gear in speed for next year, we felt they really would do better. Team 4, well, it was very quick, 3:18, but at least the speed was consistent. That was the feature, I think, of this particular team. But it was rather marred by the middle bells, then coming up with rather wide hand strokes, which seemed to give it a bit of hesitancy. And as in Team 3, not quite enough use was made of the settling down and rhythmic opportunity that's provided with the calls of single 1, 3 and 4. And there you have 10-11, 11-10 and the 10-8s, lots and lots of sixes to really pull it together. We didn't feel that this team really made enough use of that, and they might have recovered and had a better overall effect. But the speed was consistent, although, as I said, it was pretty quick. Team 5, I think is best described, and we hope not unkindly, as a piece of ringing that might have been. It was very measured, and as we approached the start, 350 field speed, so it was quite slow for these bells. But somehow it didn't hang together. It seemed to have the ingredients that it might, but it didn't seem to quite come off. It's awful to single out bells, and it's meant to be constructive, but our feeling was there that a marriage perhaps of 10-11 rather than an alliance might have helped. And the tenor too, I'm sorry to have to say here, was rather inconsistent, which did then seem to affect the next row, and so it went on. And in fact, the actual marked piece wasn't really as good as the first course. As I said, it was a piece of ringing that might have been. We felt a little sorry for that band. Team 6, quite interesting this, just as this piece was about to start, and we were on our 9th pint or something like that, it sounded as if there was a town crier down in the street below. It might have been John McDonald or someone like that, but the voice came up, oh yay, oh yay. I didn't know if you had a town crier here still, but that's what it sounded like, and that seemed to be perhaps a portent for the next piece of ringing. But this was a very good touch indeed. High effect mark, peal speed 321. They had us fooled a bit in the unmarked course because frankly it wasn't all that tremendous. But almost magically, after about the 4th or 5th, 6th of the marked section, it really did come together. It was a very good piece of ringing. And then we got to Team 7, and Great St Mary's, as proved in Team 6, can be run well at 320 and well at 340. It's really a matter of judgment, perhaps, and the band's adaptability. In Team 7, however, the speed, 319 for appeal, rather got the better of the band. That's speed, I may say, with a small s. 10-11, despite this speed, were run very well indeed, 10-11 in this touch, and that did contribute, as it happened, to a good effect mark. The faults really came down to carelessness or perhaps nerves, and the middle bells again a bit inconsistent. It's always a worry that, isn't it? Do they go along with the speed, or do they just try and hold it back and put the brake on? But there wasn't really quite the adaptability to ring we felt at that pace. And then we came to Team 8. We were still in good form, we felt, and still in good voice, and not too tired. And Team 8, a very good piece of ringing again. Strong piece of ringing throughout, crisp, confident, good effect. 318 for appeal speed, which then proves the point that if the band is adaptable, and obviously experienced, then these bells can be run well at that speed. The tenor was quite, may I say, metronomal in this particular piece. A bit of carelessness here and there, but overall, very nice to listen to. Can I just say that, again, it was a great pleasure to hear all those 8 pieces of ringing, and thank you for contributing to our afternoon and enabling us to listen to it. Thank you.
I would give the marks. First, I'll just say the judges were unanimous about the order of all the teams and the marks to be awarded. There were no disputes and no question marks. We awarded 2 types of mark as the rules encourage us. First of all, we marked all the talks, and then we gave an overall impression mark. And the overall impression mark accounted for 20% of the total marks. Roderick had a relaxing day as Chief Judge, awarding the overall impression mark, sitting in an armchair. But while he was doing that, he worked out the algorithm for combining the marks at the end of the day. George and I sat in hard chairs at desks, marking reports, being supervised by Rod. We had different systems, but the relative markings were the same throughout, and so there were no problems. Okay, so that's the marking system, and what I'm going to do now is give the marks in reverse order of merit, and there are a battery of results to be given. First of all, there's one for accuracy of striking, which is a percentage mark, and then secondly there's an overall impression mark, which is also a percentage, and then there is a total mark, also of 100, which we combined by some piece of mathematical magic. But first of all, the team which was last, in fact, was team number 5, and they scored 18% on accuracy, 10% overall impression, for a final total of 16%. Done? Okay, what do you do? That was Liz. Team number 7, the 7th was team number 3, with a 22% accuracy of striking and 25% overall impression, a total of 23%. That's from Paul's Cathedral. We didn't know this in advance, my dad. Next was team number 4, with 38% accuracy of striking, 35% overall impression, and a combined total of 37%. Merseyside. The next was team number 7. The first mark accuracy of striking was 40. Team number 1 was next. 54% accuracy of striking, 45% overall impression, combined total of 52%. That was the compliments. Sorry about that. Next was team number 2. 68% accuracy, 75% overall impression, overall total of 70%. College Youth. Next was team number 6. 73%, 85% overall impression, and a total of 75%. St Martin's Guild. And the next who won was team number 8, 77%, 90% overall impression, overall total of 80%.